Hello, my very dear Scorpios. This is your reading for the week of May 12th, or whenever you hear it and it resonates. So the first thing that I started seeing when I was preparing to do this was a mattress, and then another mattress, and then another mattress, and all of a sudden I heard The Princess and the Pea. And as I looked that up, basically it's a very short fairy tale that's about a prince and his mother not trusting that this bedraggled woman who came in out of a storm was actually a princess. So they put one pea underneath 20 mattresses and 20 feather beds, and to see whether or not she would be able to feel the pea, because only a real princess would be sensitive enough to feel this raw pea under all those mattresses. And she did, and they married, and I suppose they lived happily ever after. But to me, what this whole thing strikes me as I'm zeroing in on the many different potential meanings, I'm looking at the cards they're giving me, and what I'm seeing is this. You, my dear Scorpios, have had, I would say, for the part of the collective that I'm reading for, because it won't be for everybody, of course, is they're asking you to look at what your patterns are. What have been the peas under your mattresses that have kept you from being able to really rest, really be in a state of creativity? And they're asking you really to to soften into that sense of relaxation, to soften into that sense of rest, and to check in with whatever patterns that held you back from being able to do that. What they're saying is approach yourself with kindness right now. Because the thing, Scorpio, that I'm getting here is that we all know you can work really hard. We all know that you take on a lot, but we also know that you're very sensitive people, and sometimes you have really not let yourself honor the sensitivity that you have. It's not that you haven't known there's a pea under the mattresses. It's that you have not taken the time to dig under the mattresses and remove the pea. And the thing is, you can experience the sense of discomfort and frustration and the different emotions that go along with that. But until you but you haven't necessarily always been able to exactly pinpoint what the kernel is. So what's the kernel? What's the kernel? What's the P? So the P is whatever is the emotional element that has kept you in a pattern of going on into frustration, with disappointment, without really getting back to what the root cause is, so that you can kind of dismantle, transmute whatever that original emotional wound was that shaped these behaviors that kept you in that. Now, some of you have already done this. Some of you are in the process of doing this. What's being suggested for those of you who haven't done it is do your best to laugh at yourself in a very kind, loving way. So it's kind of like I will do to myself, go, oh, Lynn, look, you just did that again. Okay, now how can you do it different? But it's having a good nature, a kindness towards yourself about what you perceive as mistakes, as failures, as, slipping back into old patterns. It's like, you know what, we all do it. The key here for you, as I think it is for many of us, is be as self-loving as you can possibly be when you find yourself slipping back into the old things. Now, some of the old things you might fall back into is trying to perfect yourself, is having that attitude of must fix, must do. And they're saying, no, just go lean back in the mattress, get a sense of what that P is, and deal with it from that point of surrendering into change with a kindness, with a warm blanket, almost like with a teddy bear, or if you're lucky enough to have a cuddly cat, something like that, that really allows you to just soften into this process now of growth and expansion as opposed to fix. Okay? This is going to affect and improve everything for you. It's going to affect, because creativity comes up too. Creativity is a big, big thing for Scorpio. Please understand, creativity isn't just works of art, writing, painting, sculpture, whatever thing you do with your hands to produce something of beauty, or however you want to define art. It's how you create your life. So what they're really encouraging you to do is whatever changes you want to make in yourself. It's not to stop making changes. It's take a break from the idea of making yourself better or of fixing it. It's taking a break and surrendering into this idea of, okay, now I get to look at what I'd like to change. I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to clear out and I'm going to clean out old ideas and old habits that tell me there's something wrong with me that I have to fix. Okay? We talk about healing wounds, and I feel sometimes that really becomes a phrase that, without meaning to, it's perceived at an unconscious level still as, I am broken, I must fix. And I prefer to really look at it as this. A wound is something that's a combination of energies that have formed over time, that have a core, but that within the process of this whole prospect of human evolution gives us the opportunity to get to know ourselves in a different way, to consciously and deliberately expand our vision of who we are. And that it's not about, I must fix, so now I will live life perfectly. It's no. The lesson is to love yourself with all of this and to use these options and these opportunities as a way to really expand into this consciousness. Because the reality, Scorpio, is as you expand this awareness with love towards yourself, your capacity to show love to the world is great. And your capacity to really share that frequency of self-acceptance and healing as an act of growth as opposed to making yourself all right. That's something that you get to share when you embody it, and you have the capacity to do that. You're being asked, drop the weight. Surrender. Breathe. Clear out the old stuff. Take a break from fixing. And to have a kind and humorous attitude towards yourself and whatever situation you're looking at as much as possible. Now, of course, there are some situations that go back in time that are far more traumatic than others, and you may need help with this. And it's not always going to be easy to laugh at the situation or your reaction to it. So for those of you who find that disturbing or offensive in some way, what I would ask you to do is this. I'm just waiting for the answer. Humor doesn't have to be about laughing. Humor doesn't have to be about being silly and having fun. Humor can be looking at situations with a lighter attitude. So for those of you who can't laugh at a situation, instead what guides are telling me is, look at it with gentleness. Look at it with kindness. Look at it with gracious consideration for yourself, especially if it's an area where you've been traumatized. Take that gentle approach, okay? You may not be able to apply humor in the way that we associate humor with laughing and entertainment, but humor at its highest form is kindly. It takes the upper approach looking down. And it's very often the ability to do that that will allow us to move beyond our defenses. So if you can, and for me, again, many times it's like, okay, I'm not going to laugh at the fact that, this happened in my childhood, or my parents had this situation and that was really painful for us as kids. But what I can laugh at is how I see myself playing out the role when there's nobody there to play the role out for. I'm just doing it for myself. And then I get to go, oh yeah, okay, I get that. So with self-awareness, with understanding what the P is, sometimes you can take it out and you can go, oh, there you are, you little beggar. And just go, oh yeah, okay, I see. Right, still there. Okay, but now I can move it aside. And that's what you're asked to be doing. Move the P aside. Take the P out, look at it, move it aside. Not because you need to fix your ability to rest, but because you desire to rest and you desire to move that aside and have it take a different place in your life. I'm going to also say there are many ways they could have told me this and shown me this. And there you go. Again, past, present, future. That's what it's talking about here, my loves. And I'm going to read this to you because I think this is really relevant in terms of how you might want to deal with the P. Past memories, present events, future possibilities. Today, notice what percentage of your day you spend in each of the above states through thought, action, or conversation. Where are you most inclined to experience sadness, anger, fear, excitement, hope, calm, inspiration? What can that reveal to you about how you're living life today? And that is really the key. How are you living life today? And how would you like to live it? And these are the ways that you can apply. These are the things that you can apply in order to be able to live it from that higher elevation. But what I started to say before I pull that card, and they are reminding me, is there are many different ways they could have presented this to me. What they have presented this to me is, you are the princess, or prince. You are the royalty. This is about you being royalty. Whatever it looks like on the outside and however you judge yourself externally, you are royalty. You are divine. You are divine. That's what royalty is in a metaphysical sense, right? You are divine. You are elevated already. Don't let the P disturb you to the point that you forget who you really are. That is the crux of this message, my loves. Do not forget who you really are. Don't let the P's take you down. That's it, Scorpio. Take care.